Tuesday, September 2nd, 2020. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, black business leaders have endorsed Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris. We'll talk to the head of the Black Economic Alliance about their endorsement. A new report shows that in 2019, Georgia probably removed the voter registrations of nearly 200,000 voters in error. Greg Palast is here with those details. A group of black folks in Oklahoma, led by a 105-year-old woman, have filed a lawsuit demanding reparations for the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. We'll talk with their attorney. Also, a new round of anti-Trump ads, and plus we continue to memorialize the life and legacy of Chadwick Boseman. Folks, it is a jam-packed show. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Black business leaders say a Biden-Harris administration would be better for African Americans than a Trump-Pence administration. The Black Economic Alliance issued their first presidential endorsement since its founding in 2018. Joining us now is the executive director of the Black Economic Alliance, David Clooney. David, how you doing?
I'm well, Roland. How are you?
All right, so we talk about this particular endorsement here. Let's talk about economics, and that is Donald Trump makes the argument that he has done more for black people since Abraham Lincoln. We know that's absolutely false. I've heard some people say, hey, the tax cuts have been a boon to black businesses. So why is the Black Economic Alliance endorsing Biden-Harris over Trump-Pence?
So the Black Economic Alliance, a group of black business leaders, is endorsing Biden-Harris because we've been working with the campaign over the last few months. We've seen them beef up not only their campaign staff and hiring senior black folks like Simone Sanders, Karine Jean-Pierre, having Cedric Richmond, Congressman Cedric Richmond, the former chair of the CBC, Congressional Black Caucus, as their national campaign chair, but also in working with us and getting the input of other trusted black-led organizations and figuring out how their plans can be tailored to close the racial wealth gap. If we want to talk about the 2017 tax plan, let's talk about opportunity zones, for example. That program was meant to drive investment to underserved, disinvested communities, particularly communities of color. In fact, it is largely served as a boon to developers who were doing real estate deals in gentrifying neighborhoods already. There is a significant need for reform, and that's one of the many things that Joe Biden put out in his racial equity plan as the fourth pillar of his Build Back Better.
But if you talk to the Trump people, they say, hey, $75 billion has gone to these opportunity zones. I have been asking them for the data saying, show me how that actually has benefited African Americans. They can't do that. And so you're saying y'all analysis is that when he touts those opportunity zones, that has not been helpful to black folks.
Our point is the opportunity zones has the right purpose in trying to drive more investment to these communities. We're saying that the way it is structured is in need of reform because it does not apply enough restriction and specific requirements that make sure that the benefit goes to the community that are meant to benefit from this plan.
So beyond the economic zone, what opportunity zones, what else are you saying to African Americans, black business owners? Why a Biden-Harris administration would be better for black people economically than Trump-Pence?
Great question. So at the Black Economic Alliance, we focus on work, wages, and wealth. All three of those things are addressed in Joe Biden's economic plans. And like I said, we've worked very closely together, and we look forward to working together going forward. at real significant systemic change. I think we have a landscape now politically where we could have groundbreaking legislation and significant reform, particularly led by people who look like us, and having perhaps the most diverse administration we've ever had, given the political climate. But specifically, things like small business support. He is giving public-private partnerships or supporting public-private partnerships in an effort to increase access to capital. The Paycheck Protection Program in general, that Black business owners just do not have enough access to capital, particularly from the traditional banking system. He's talked about making a historic commitment to equalizing federal procurement, investing and boosting home ownership, particularly for communities of color and Black folks. Home ownership is the largest builder of wealth, world wealth, things in the United States over generations. And looking at retirement security, equity, infrastructure plan that's thinking about how, both in your procurement, designing infrastructure plans, there's a specific plans on benefiting communities of color. Second chance hiring, and as I talked about first, I think the political climate happening now, we have seen real recognition from the Biden-Harris campaign that they know we have a moment that we have to respond to, and that the only way to do that is to be bold in our ask, and also to put the right people in place, like Kamala Harris, who know the Black experience and know firsthand what's needed to really move on closing the wealth.
All right, then. David Clooney, we surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Roland.
All right, my panels, Breonna Cartwright, political strategist, A. Scott Bolden, former chair, National Bar Association Political Action Committee, Robert Patillo, executive director of the Rainbow Push Coalition, Peachtree Street Project. Robert, I'll start with you. Let's talk economics here. And so, first of all, this is a group of Black business leaders. Donald Trump has tried to make the argument that he is the right person for the job, but also the Congressional Budget Office just dropped their new report showing that the federal deficit is now $3.3 trillion. It was $596 billion when Obama was president. Donald Trump has added $3.7 trillion to that. And so those tax cuts that he touts, and I've heard black business owners, Black men say, oh, that's been a boon to us, but the Black worker has not necessarily said the same thing.
Well, in large part, we have to think about the fact that much of this is performative, the nature of the reforms of Trump. As in, when we talk about the low unemployment rate, it was all built off of the national credit card. We're going to cut taxes at the same time as increasing spending. We're going to not articulate any plan to pay this money back. And then when anything happens to knock us off that razor's edge, we saw the entire economy collapse, and now nearly 60 million people filing unemployment claims. We have to have a sound economic and fiscal policy that is actually sustainable. No one believes that our current economic system is sustainable or something that can grow. And just as Trump talks much about the opportunity zones of what they've done for the Black community, what we have not, he also in the same breath talks about the fact that so many Black communities are in poverty, that they have not improved. We see the commercials and ads from many Black Republicans talking about the despotic hellscapes of Black communities around the country, but with no plan or articulation on how they exactly are going to fix it. So people have to get out of the performative nature of public policy and dig down and ask for the dollar and cents numbers on what needs to be done to ensure that we have the economic prosperity that's been promised by this administration and others before it.
When you look, Breonna, when you look at this, again, they are making a financial decision here, the Black Economic Alliance. And so what kind of impact do you think it could have in speaking to Black voters? Donald Trump has made it clear this administration wants to target Black men specifically. They think they can get 20% of Black men voting for Donald Trump. How do they make the argument that, you know what, it actually Trump-Pence has not been a boon to Black people economically?
Right. I think that it's very important that the Black Economic Alliance endorsed Biden, Harris, and Trump has been horrible for Black businesses. The coronavirus outbreak has been extremely tough for Black businesses. Even with the PPP and the economic injury disaster loan, programs in Black businesses have had a more difficult time getting these federal relief programs. An example would be in D.C. at Finch Chili's Bowl. And so it's been an iconic place for Black people in D.C. for over 60 years, and they almost didn't survive because of the wait time for the PPP loan. They were so strapped for cash, they closed all locations except one. And so that shows you how Trump hasn't been good for Black businesses.
Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, you know what I really like about BEA, and pardon me?
Go ahead. You're live. Go ahead.
What I like about BEA is, and I'm a big contributor to theirs, is that they have not only corporate dollars, but sizable wealth of its Black members and board members, and they give money to those who are going to give and invest and select Democratic candidates or even Republican candidates who are going to fulfill their economic agenda, their economic empowerment. There's no other organization like it. Secondly, the problem with Donald Trump, and even when he talks about lower Black unemployment, the problem with him is that he has no targeted urban agenda to not only empower Black people, but let alone Black businesses. If you look at the unemployment that went down to 3, 4, 5%, well, white unemployment went down and so did Black unemployment, but the gap between Black and white's unemployment numbers never changed, which means he did nothing to close the gap because he hasn't targeted them as part of his urban agenda, let alone implemented or invested anything in closing that gap because he's not interested. Those two things have to happen under Biden-Harris. And what BEA is saying is it is more likely that they can keep Biden-Harris accountable in directing Black economic empowerment, not only in the urban centers, but all across the country. We'll have to see.
Look, the bottom line is Trump is going to try to make an economic argument to African Americans, especially Black men. Robert.
But he can't, though. He can't. Well, You're right, but he can't.
No, but here's the deal, though. Scott. The Quinnipiac, their egg poll came out today. It is showing 11% Black support. He got 8% in 2016. Again, Robert, the Trump campaign, I've heard it from this White House directly. They believe they got 13% of the Black male vote. They believe that they can push that to 18 to 20%. So how does Biden-Harris? I get all of the attention folks had on Black women, but the reality is this here. The New York Times had a story the other day. You cannot repeat the Obama winning coalition without Black men. Robert, what must Biden-Harris say specifically to Black men to get their votes in November?
Well, one, they have to articulate a message that actually benefits the African-American male. Quite frankly, what Donald Trump has done is do a very good job of appealing to men in the campaign generally, and then specifically to Black men. I can name more Black male surrogates for Donald Trump than I can now name Black male surrogates for Joe Biden. When you see interviews of Black conservatives, you have Bruce Lavelle, you have Paris Denard, you have Deontay Johnson, you have Malik. I can rattle them off. I don't know a Black man who is speaking on the side of Joe Biden on a regular basis besides Cory Booker. I also think that the first thing that Democrats' mouth can no longer just be criminal justice reform when we talk about the needs of African-American men. Not all of us are criminals. Not all of us, that's our first agenda item. And quite frankly, they have to make sure that they're articulating this in a way that is that we can actually repeat and that we can hold them accountable for, instead of simply going to the old tropes. They've just launched the the Shop Talk series with the Biden-Harris campaign, so they are making some efforts to reach out. But I do think that you can't just try to ride the Black girl magic train across the finish line. You're going to have to reach out to brothers. And when you go to barbershops, when you go to the grocery store, when you go to your fraternity, when you go to play basketball, whatever you're doing, not many people, Black men, are super excited about the Biden campaign. I think they have about 30 days to fix that.
But Roland, they're not excited about it, because Biden-Harris aren't talking to them about it. They're talking at them. That's first of all. Second of all, I got to tell you, I think I may have told you this story. In 2016, the janitor in my building said to me after Trump won on election night, he said, "I voted for Trump." I said, "Are you nuts?" He said, "Nope, I'm not nuts." And then he told me, he said, "I'm pushing this broom because an illegal immigrant came in and took my construction job. And the only person that's speaking to that, because I'm still pushing this broom, is Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton never spoke to me about that, or at least I wasn't convinced that she was talking to Black men about that. And I lost my job." in that narrative that he shared with me was not only eye-opening, but I tell you what, Biden and Harris better address and talk to black men about that issue and other issues that are affecting them and their ability to provide for their families, as well as to be economically empowered based on voting for them. I haven't heard that yet, but that's where that 11 to 13% is coming from of black men who supported the Trump ticket.
Well, I'll tell you, Brianna, first
rightfully
of all,
or wrongfully, by
here's
the
the
way.
deal.
Rightfully or wrongfully.
You absolutely have to have surrogates out there talk about those issues. And look, and I hear your point, Robert, but the reality is Congressman Cedric Richmond has been out there, Congressman Jim Clyburn. But you also have to go outside, Brianna, of members of Congress. You've got to go to individuals who are business owners, individuals who are out here, who can talk a narrative, who can also speak speak to those issues. Robert is right. I mean, here's the deal. There are a bunch of us who never been involved in the criminal justice system. So so you can't say criminal justice, mass incarceration, think you're just talking to black men. No, you have to articulate a much broader message. And that, again, that's what they're going to have to figure out. And they got to get it done because Joe Biden cannot afford slippage. He has to be able to have the kind of coalition that's actually going to achieve it. Brianna, go ahead.
Yes, I totally agree that it can't just be Congress members. However, there is Black caucus men who are helping within this. Specifically, he has 300 Black ministers nationally that's helping propel the message and being surrogates. And so I think it comes in different aspects within our community. And as we talked about for businesses, but through the church, I do think that there is a heavy target on Black women, as we've seen, and we love Kamala, and it makes sense in itself that the past few weeks, Joe Biden has put Kamala Harris out in front in terms of messaging and what a Democratic White House will do in regard to economic policy, small businesses, and jobs. And so I think concentrating on the labor aspect of our nation and how we can get it better will really drive home a lot of the issues that we're seeing, as a Black man or as a Black woman. And there are definitely surrogates, but we see that he's targeting Black men by pardoning, just the way that he targeted immigrants by doing the citizenship randomly during the RNC, which I don't know what it had to do with anything. So, if people are going to take the symbolic gestures to go over there, that's kind of like hard to fight. But I think people are looking for more than just symbols and they want action. And the last 4 years have shown how he does not help Black America.
I got you.
And I think that's very important.
But Roland, real quick,
I do think that immigration issue when it comes to Black men.
Robert, go ahead. Well, actually, the immigration issue is a big issue with Black men. I can tell you that going back to when I did. Look, I can go back to 2008 when I had my radio show on WVON when that issue came up. How that was a major issue with the callers. But Robert, go ahead.
Well, I think one of the things that's important is there is no current Biden elevator pitch to Black men. That if I was to say distill down what Joe Biden's going to do for African-American men in a 30-second pitch, most people can't. I think until the Democratic Party is able to articulate something along those lines, it's going to be very difficult to not have Donald Trump get that 20% of the Black vote. Because even if it's disingenuous, a lie will travel halfway around the world before the truth can put on its pants. And they just keep hammering unemployment, First Step Act, opportunity zones, and then roll out the Black surrogates. That is enough to get you over 20% unless there's a strong counterpunch from the Democratic Party.
Folks, it is 61 days until Election Day. And, of course, our goal is to get you focused on that. Make sure you go to vote.org to double-check your registration, to register to vote. You can also fill out the 2020 census. Why is that important? Because of this. In 2019, Georgia purged nearly 200,000 people from the rolls. In error. The American Civil Liberties Union of Georgia released a report by the Palace Investigative Fund titled Georgia Voter Roll Purge Errors. The report concluded that the state has incorrectly removed nearly 200,000 Georgia citizens from the voter rolls in 2019. The state's removals are likely to affect the most vulnerable. Joining us right now is Greg Palast. Greg, glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. 200,000, that easily sways an election.
You think losing 200,000 voters might affect the election? Yeah.
In a massive way.
Exactly. And I'm going to tell you something else. I know you'll be shocked to hear this, Roland, but of the 198,000 people that they've wrongly removed, overwhelmingly young people and voters of color. So, you know, are you shocked?
No, I'm not shocked. In fact, when you talk about those young voters, I have been telling civil rights groups when they were talking about voter suppression, don't just talk about it in the framework of just people of color. They've got to be telling white folks who are young, hey, they're targeting you too. In 2012, a county clerk in Wisconsin admitted moving an early voting location off of a college campus because too many of those young whites were voting Democrat, and she moved it to a far out place, which made it harder for them to be able to get to. We've seen the same thing happen in North Carolina. And so I've said to young white folks, y'all are part of voter suppression as well. So that's also why I keep telling people they have to check their registration, Greg. Go to vote.org to double check it, because the problem is, and give us your site as well, because people are assuming, oh, no, I'm good. And I'm like, no, you got to double and triple check because they might screw you.
Well, if you are in Georgia, I really want you to go to this website. Now, pay attention. It's savemyvote.org. Excuse me, savemyvote2020.org.
Savemyvote2020.org.
Yes.
Got it.
Or you can also go to my name, gregpalast.com, and it will link you through. Look, here's what they did. They said all these people moved. 300,000 people. Well, where are the moving trucks, Roland? Atlanta should be emptied out if all these people left. So I was suspicious. So I hired the post office's experts. The post office has people that are licensed to go through address change. The state didn't use the people that the post office licenses to tell you where people live for sure. And by the way, that's in the law. But, what does the federal law mean in Georgia? They've ignored it. As far as we could tell, they found these addresses, I don't know, in a cereal box or something. But all I can tell you is they have very effective at removing voters of color and young people. And 200,000, yeah, that's going to affect November. I'm very worried that people think that they can vote. Because remember, if you're purged, that is, you're erased from the voter rolls, and it's in Wisconsin and Georgia and Michigan and many, many states. But if you're purged, you're not getting that mail-in ballot. You can't mail in your ballot if it's not mailed to you. And that's part of the trick. And most people have no idea that they've lost their right to vote.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and we see, again, how they're playing games with it. We're seeing right now what is happening. Look, the Republicans, and I have no problem saying it, they want to shave off thousands of votes because they know they're not growing their party. If they can depress turnout, 1, 2, put all these barriers in place, 3, we see what's happening with the post office, and then even if people do vote, they're going to be looking for every single error. I've got folks now, Greg, who are saying, Democrats, forget mailing your ballot, strap up, get fully loaded, and vote in person because they're going to be targeting those mail-in votes.
Yes. Let me explain something. 22% of all mail-in ballots never get counted, Roland. That's the MIT study. 1 in 5 ballots don't get counted. Now, there's ways for you to avoid having your ballot canceled out on you. Number 1, make sure you're registered. You're not getting that ballot if you're not registered. 1 in 10 people who ask for the ballot don't get them or don't get them on time. So ask like right now.
Yep.
Like right after this program, you go and ask for your mail-in ballot if you want it now. And you mail in at least a week and preferably 2 weeks early. And then if you have healthy friends, they should go in and be poll watchers for the vote count, because you're right about something. When when ballots are mailed in, about 1 in 8 mail-in ballots is challenged. They don't like your signature. 100,000 people lost their vote for postage due. In fact, signature, 141,000 ballots were thrown out because of suspect signature. Now, were there 141,000 fraudulent, felonious forgers who stole ballots and forged your signature? No, no one, not one person was arrested for forging an absentee ballot, but they disqualified 141,000. Be very careful how you fill it out. My sister, who's a lawyer, lost her vote, her mail-in vote, because she didn't properly fill in the bubble next to her candidate.
Wow.
Follow the instructions. And in many states, by the way, you're going to have to have a witness. In Alabama, 2 witnesses, or you're going to have your ballot notarized. So you might be right that the best thing, if you're safe enough, if you are young enough, healthy enough, bring your hazmat suit and an umbrella and some food and get ready to wait 4 or 5 hours in that line to vote. But I would rather you vote early when there's no lines.
Yeah, right.
Okay? Understand there's no lines in midweek when people are at the early voting stations. Almost every state has it. And a lot of states let you fill out an absentee ballot and then bring it in so you don't have to go through the post office. Get your ballot, fill it out, bring it in, put it in a drop box, your county elections office, or take it to the polling station midweek during early voting. There's no one there. It's safe, it's quick, and you don't have 4 hours in line on Election Day.
Greg Palast, I appreciate it. Again, go to gregpalast.com, GREGPALAST.com. If you are in Georgia, to double check to make sure that you have not been removed from the voter rolls. And is it SaveMyVote2020.org?
Exactly. SaveMyVote2020.org.
Okay.
You got it right.
All right. Greg, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
You're the best, Roland. Bye.
Thank you very much, sir. Robert, I want to start with you. You're there in Georgia. Stacey Abrams constantly talked about this in her race against Brian Kemp. This also, though, is not just Georgia. That lawsuit, when it came to purging people from the voter rolls, which the Supreme Court allowed, which they allowed to go through, which is interesting because when it came to the gerrymandering case, they said, hey, we don't have any role when it comes to political gerrymandering, but they allowed that to go through. There was a white guy who sued in Ohio, which opened the door to voter purges, where they say, hey, you haven't voted in 1 or 2 elections, we can remove you from the rolls. We have to get our people to be constantly in a state of mind, check your registration, because I had a frat brother who texted me, he voted in the primary this year. Watches this show. He's in Arizona. Went back. He wasn't on the voting roll. He re-registered.
Well, Roland, on that point, I think part of what we have to do is look at what Republicans do. They are playing chess at a very high level. They plan these things out 5, 10, 15, 20 years ahead of time. We were fighting back when I was in college in Georgia, marching against the voter ID laws, fighting in 2010 against reducing the number of days for early voting, fighting against the restrictions on absentee ballots. So what we have to start doing is thinking about these things strategically and not figuring out 60 or 70 days before the election that the game is about to be rigged. We are going to have to get these Democratic groups and these left-leaning groups to put the necessary money into elections, put the necessary money into getting people to fighting against voter suppression on the far term, and not simply waiting until a couple months before to understand the game is being rigged against us. And in the meantime, we have to put the money into community-based organizations that are fighting to protect the vote.
Brianna? Can't see you. Can't hear you. I'm sorry, but can't hear you. I think you're muted. Unmute yourself. There we go.
Georgia, there we go. Sorry about that. Georgia's under Republican control. It's a laboratory for stealing democracy at this point. And it's crazy to think that nearly 200,000 people in Georgia were removed from the voter file under the pretense that, they had moved. In fact, that they did it. It makes up 63% of the people who are removed as registered voters. That's scary. And, who gets held accountable for this? Absolutely nobody. We've seen it now over and over and over again. We've seen it in different states. It's going to get worse. We need a lot of people on deck. I do like the suggestion. I know more states were ramping up of putting drop boxes. instead of mailing. But, Republicans, have been targeting disenfranchisement for a while. That's how Stacey Abrams lost her election, little over 50,000 votes. And Republicans control the state. And so it's even crazier that, the reported number of voters who are legally removed to be even higher, as this number doesn't include those who moved within their district, who actually did move. And so someone, could have moved from apartment A to apartment C in the same building, and Georgia would have removed them from the list of registered voters, which is insane. And so we do need to make sure that we're equipped. I do know, I think it's, I can't remember, but I do know that there's now a store that's going to have their workers be poll workers. We need more poll workers. That's
the gap. Old Navy. Old Navy.
Old Navy, yes, absolutely, Old Navy, and that's very important because a lot of the people who were poll workers previously were old, and they may not be able to be around people as much. And it's very, very important to make sure that we're protecting the vote. There's people to make sure there's no voter intimidation. And so we've been ramping up on that. And I think it's very important to make sure today that you go to make sure that you're still registered to vote, and that you, that if not, you get registered to vote, because in some states, starting this month, you're going to receive a ballot if you're doing absentee. So, it seems like it's early, but for some states, it's really not. It's almost voting time. So we need to make sure that we're on the rolls and that we can vote.
Scott, bottom line is this here. Again, part of our job is to ensure that you don't get caught up in the web. So to Greg's point, 22% of mail-in ballots are getting thrown out. Bottom line, if you're going to vote by mail-in, check everything. Check full name, check your address, do everything exactly the way it's supposed to go to ensure your ballot is going to be counted.
Yeah, I listen to all of these messages, and they're all out there, and we're all saying the right thing. I often wonder how many people of your frontline voters or your average voter are really listening, right? They say to themselves, how hard can it be to vote? I got it. I'm going to cross my T's and dot my I's, and I'll get there, and so forth and so on. And I guess my message to them is that, no, this is not going to be easy. We're running against three different opponents as Democrats. We're running against the GOP and Donald Trump. We're running against foreign interference in our democracy. The reports have come out on that. And then we're running against voter suppression, not only in swing states, but all around the country, and not just in the South. And so the Democrats, regardless of us being up 10 to 12 points, if you will, or even 7 points, run and vote like you're down 7 to 10 points. You vote early, do it the right way. Or as he said, I love the idea of your last guest. He said, fill it out, right? And take it down early in the middle of the day when nobody's there and do your early voting. That's a perfect scenario for those who may be elderly, those who are middle-aged, and even young people, despite COVID. And it's healthy, too, if you do it that way with your mask and what have you versus these long lines and stuff. We got to pay attention on this one, right? Because our life and our future and our future of our country literally depend on it. And so we've got to treat it that way. And I hope everyone watching and their families treat it that way, because it's super serious business. It is nothing to sleep on.
But here's the deal, though, Robert, they are listening. They are listening. I mean, I get the emails. People have gone back and checked. But here's the piece. You got to do it every day. Look, mainstream media, they aren't doing what we're doing, okay? They're not doing this, all right? Mainstream media, it was that case at CNN. They were working on a voter suppression documentary that was going to air in October. I was like, what the hell are y'all doing? The registration's already passed. I'm like, you should be working on voter suppression stuff long before the registration deadline. No, this has to be a constant deal. We got to, every single day, every person who is listening, the nearly more than 4,000 people who are watching live on YouTube, the more than 1,000 people who are on Facebook, the people who are on Periscope, you got to, again, all I'm simply saying is, folks, it takes 2 minutes. Go to vote.org, double check, make sure you're still registered. If you're not, click the registration. You can register right there. We have to be in that constant state every day, Robert, every day, every day, every day.
Well, a big part of it is understanding
Robert, go ahead.
A big part of it is understanding demographics. We're talking about Georgia. Let's remember that Georgia is a state that is 35% African American. That's 10% Latino. That's 5% Asian American. 52% females. Everybody knows Atlanta has a humongous LGBTQIA+PK plus population. But instead of us harnessing that, instead of us focusing on making sure we can get those turnout numbers, often what the Democratic Party does is try to get those South Georgia farmers in Cairo who voted for Jimmy Carter and think that they can get them back to voting Democrat. No, focus on getting the people who like you to get out there and vote instead of trying to find this elusive white working class vote, as Donald Trump says, suburban wife, to come back over to the party. Focus on the people who are going to vote for you. Put out messaging that motivates them, and more importantly, ensure that you can get all of their votes counted. That regardless of what the rules are, know what the rules are, and then put money into getting those people to the ballot box. It's not that hard, but for some reason, I think Democrats are wed to this idea of the 1950s that the truck drivers and factory workers and the white working class voters are going to come back to them. When you can, if you double down and investigating African Americans to support you, putting in messaging, putting in the dollars, then you can win with that.
Folks, let's go to Tulsa, where a 105-year-old black woman leads a group of Oklahomans to filing a lawsuit against the city of Tulsa. They're demanding reparations for the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. Nearly 100 years ago, a white mob destroyed the booming business district in the black neighborhood, killing up to 300 people. The lawsuit affirms that the massacre is responsible for racial inequality in Tulsa today. Joining us right now is Tulsa attorney Demario Solomon Simmons. Demario, so first of all, this has been a case, I've covered this for years. Professor Charles Ogletree, y'all pray for him. He's suffering from Alzheimer's. Johnny Cochran and other black lawyers were working on this particular case. The state of Oklahoma, they apologize, but have not done what was right when it comes to financial. And that is, and there were more survivors who were alive when this thing 15 years ago, and they've been fighting this thing for the longest. You're suing for this one. You're suing the city, not the state. Explain.
Well, thanks, Roland, for having me on, and thank you for invoking my mentor, Charles Ogletree. I started my legal career 16 years ago as a baby lawyer, working with he and Johnny Cochran of the Reparations Coordinating Committee on the federal case. And as you know, that case was kicked out of court by the 10th Circuit and ultimately not heard by the Supreme Court in 2005. Our lawsuit is much different, and we feel much stronger about our chances moving forward this year because we are actually following our case in the state court system, utilizing the Oklahoma's powerful, very powerful public nuisance law. And our public nuisance law, you may have remembered just last year, the state of Oklahoma sued the opioid companies, Johnson & Johnson, and received a $525 million verdict, utilizing the same theory and law that we're utilizing, which is a public nuisance theory.
So by suing the city, now this becomes a state lawsuit, not a federal lawsuit.
Well, we're suing, the defendants is actually the city, the county sheriff's office, the Tulsa, what's called the Tulsa Development Authority, and the Tulsa Metropolitan Planning Commission, and also the National Guard. So we have 6 defendants that we're actually suing. And our theory is, again, it's under Oklahoma law. We have 2 claims. One is public nuisance. So basically it goes like this, Roland. They created a nuisance back in 1921 when they decimated my community, when they looted, burned, and killed and exiled thousands of my people. They have not done anything to abate or repair that nuisance since that time. In fact, they've only exaggerated the nuisance and made it worse over the time, to the point now in Oklahoma and North Tulsa, the average person the black Tulsans live 11 years less than white Tulsans. And some of the more impoverished zip codes, that's like 17-year difference in life expectancy. And so utilizing this public nuisance law gives us the opportunity, we believe, to finally get this case in front of a court on its merits and not get kicked out on a procedural statute of limitations argument. Our second claim is unjust enrichment. we're alleging, and we can prove and will prove, that those same entities that I've named that created the nuisance, that destroyed and killed our people, are now benefiting from the disaster that they created. They are now utilizing Black Wall Street and the 100-year commemoration as a brand to sell, to create tourism that benefits them and not those who suffer.
All right. We certainly appreciate you joining us. Good luck in this lawsuit, and we'll certainly be covering it in the future.
Appreciate it, and ask everyone go to justiceforgreenwood.org. That's justiceforgreenwood.org, and sign up for regular updates.
All right, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Good to see you as always.
Yes, sir. All right, folks, let's talk about this is quite interesting. William Barr, who is the Attorney General, did an interview on CNN where he basically said, y'all complaining about police brutality? This stuff happened to black people. It's not significant. Listen to this.
No, I don't think they're two justice systems. I think the narrative that that the police are on some epidemic of shooting unarmed black men is simply a false narrative, and also the narrative that that's based on race. The fact of the matter is, it's very rare for an unarmed African American to be shot by a white police officer. There were 10 cases last year. 6 of them, the suspect was attacking the police officer physically. So these are rare things compared to the 7,000 to 8,000 young black men who were killed every year.
Because you've said you don't believe there's systemic racism in the justice in our justice system among the police, but you did say this. You did say, I do think it is a widespread phenomenon that African American males in particular are treated with extra suspicion and maybe not given the benefit of the doubt.
No, I don't think they're two justice systems. I think the narrative that
Scott, Bill Barr is arrogant. Bill Barr is arrogant as hell. Mm-hmm. For Bill Barr to say, "Oh, that were only 10 cases last year," what in the hell world is he living in?
And if you look at the proportionality, which is what he forgets, that we make up 10 to 13% of the American population. And proportionally, black men unarmed are shot at a much higher proportion than white men and women are by the police. That the proportionality of how we are stopped and harassed and abused by the police, whether you report it or not, proportionately, that number skyrockets. The suspicion of white people versus black people in this country. Every black man has a story about being abused by the police. So how can you say that's a false narrative comparatively or proportionally speaking? And then where are all the videos of the police abusing poor white kids and women or wealthy white kids and women simply because they aren't suspicious of them? Where are the videos where the police have pulled out their gun and walked up to a car driven by a white person in this country? They simply do not exist. And by the way, the people perpetrating violence and breaking the law in Portland and Kenosha and Minnesota over George Floyd or Jacobs, right? It's white people perpetrating it, including white people murdering other white people in the presence of the police. That's manifest evidence that what he is saying is borders on the nonsensical or is just purposeful denial to create another false narrative, right? And so the president and this and his AG are just completely off base here. And again, this false narrative so white people or white Republican voters can feel some level of comfort when the root is either racism or what I call blue racism then.
Here's another lie, Brianna, when the issue of mail-in voting came up. Watch this.
There are several states that only have mail-in voting, including a Republican state.
Well, this is playing with fire. This is playing with fire. We're a very closely divided country here. And if people have to have confidence in the results of the election and the legitimacy of the government, and people trying to change the rules to this methodology, which, as a matter of logic, is very open to fraud and coercion, is reckless and dangerous. And the people are playing with fire.
Well, I will point out there are 5 states that only have mail-in voting, including Utah and Colorado and Washington State, Oregon, Hawaii, and they've reported over the years they've had virtually no problems. But who's trying to change the rules right now?
I would say the people who want to go to mass mail-in ballots.
But you understand why. There is a coronavirus pandemic. There are several states that only have mail-in voting, including a Republican
Well,
state
this
like
is
Utah.
playing with fire. This is playing with fire.
Here's the deal here. Here's the deal. It's real simple here. Breonna, I don't trust a damn thing that Bill Barr says. Not a damn thing. Bill Barr will lie for Donald Trump all day, every day.
Yeah, that's very smart of you. You shouldn't, and no one really should. Barr is controlling the narrative, and so is Trump. So the truth does matter. If we do not have media attention around this, then we fail, and it's hard. And that's why we're trying to push the narrative now, and that's why we protest. Last week there was a march on Washington. There was a lot of people, despite COVID. And we're trying to keep that relevant and realize in the numbers. But the RNC literally said that there is no racism at all, right? That was just last week in the convention. And, Biden is addressing it, but, we have to inform the public on it. And there is an issue there. You said, it is 2 different worlds in this country, right? It's black and white. And unfortunately, one is unfairly treated. And so, those who feel threatened by racial integration of the suburbs is now finding gun violence as a solution to their unfounded fears of the other attacking them. And so since, that threat was directly stated by Trump, the idea that civil unrest, is not only a present danger, but justification of this use of lethal force by civilians is also the exact kind of fear tactic Republicans are talking about. So they say we're not racist, but they will also shoot you if, we'll shoot you if you come near us. So, they're saying one thing, but actions speak louder than words.
Robert, Bill Barr, Donald Trump, before them, Jeff Sessions, they made it perfectly clear. They did not want to have these police consent decrees. They said, it was just causing too much more morale problems for the officers. This is why people do not trust this Department of Justice.
Well, there's no reason to trust this Department of Justice. Let's understand something. That to Barr's statement about this narrative, what narrative means is your way of dismissing someone else's lived experience. If you remember before the Me Too movement, when women would talk about sexual harassment and rape and workplace allegations, it was called a narrative. So he's trying to say that these lived experiences that African Americans and in particular the African American males have had somehow don't exist. I don't have any black male friends who haven't either been in the back of a police car or who have not spent a night in jail. I'm talking about doctors, lawyers, engineers, IT specialists, so on and so forth. So when he says that only 10 people got killed by the cops, that doesn't account for the thousands who were harassed, who had guns put up to their head, who were stopped and frisked, who have experienced the unequal nature of this criminal justice system. These shootings on video are just the ones to get the national attention. Most of these never ever get reported to police. So whereas Republicans can talk all they want about opportunity zones and about what they did with the First Step Act, and you can have the performative justice of pardoning black people on television, when you come directly behind that and dismantle their lived experiences by simply saying that it's only a narrative that black people are experiencing violence and experiencing an unequal criminal justice system, that takes away all credibility from the performative justice which you just put out there, because all of us as African American men know that is the reality of the system, and anybody who denies it is implicitly embracing white supremacy and racism.
In fact, one of his other quotes was this here, Scott. If anything's been baked into the system, it's a bias toward non-discrimination. What the hell
does that mean?
Legal world is this dude living in?
It's baked in, that bias towards non-discrimination. What does that mean? Does that mean that the system and the police and the institutions in this country are so focused on non-discriminatory action or race-neutral actions and words that we've eliminated bias and racism from the narrative, from our institutions, and from the country. We live in two worlds, one black, one white. And so the last person I'm going to take advice from on what racism is and its definition and how we live in our black world, if you will, and how we're perceived is someone that doesn't look like me. And he doesn't look like me. And people who haven't lived in our world, whether you're part of the working rich or the poor and the disenfranchised, you have zero capability of telling me about my life, what racism is, and what I ought to be doing or not doing about this racism narrative that white America wants to deny because they see a black president or they see Oprah Winfrey or they see these images of exceptions to capitalism and racism and all that comes with it. They think they've made it. These people have made it because there is no racism. But those people who are doing well, professionals as well as the very wealthy and the working rich, have made it, however you define it, despite racism, despite oppression, that despite the fact that race is the tie that binds us. Economics may separate us, but race is the tie that binds us. And we've made it, however you define that, despite racism, not because of it or because it doesn't exist anymore. These are fundamental difference between how people, black people and white people, perceive this country because our experiences are substantially different. And you can't own your experience or own my experience if you've never been in my experience. So stop denying racism. And stop telling me what racism is for me as opposed to white America's view of it, which is all forgiving. And that was a long time ago. And why should I pay for my ancestors? I want to fix what your ancestors did to me. I don't want you to forget about it. Fix it.
Bottom line, but Barr ain't gonna do it. So I have no trust in Bill Barr. Folks, gotta go to a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the latest round of anti-Trump ads. Also, we'll talk with Jacob Blake's father. He'll be joining us along with attorney Ben Crump right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Back in a moment. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. As our community comes together to support the fight against racial injustice, I want to take a second to talk about one thing we can do to ensure our voices are heard. Not tomorrow, but now. Have your voices heard in terms of what kind of future we want by taking the 2020 census today at 2020census.gov? Now, folks, let me help you out. The census is a count of everyone living in the country. It happens once every 10 years. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. The thing that's important is that the census informs funding, billions of dollars, how they are spent in our communities every single year. I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston, Texas, and we wanted new parks and roads and a senior citizen center. Well, the census helps inform all of that and where funding goes. It also determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. Young black men and young children of color are historically undercounted, which means a potential loss of funding of services that helps our community. Folks, we have the power to change that. We have the power to help determine where hundreds of billions in federal funding go each year for the next 10 years. Funding that can impact our community, our neighborhoods, and our families and friends. Folks, responses are 100% confidential and can't be shared with your landlord, law enforcement, or any government agency. So please take the 2020 census today. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov.
Uh-oh, Donald. Bad news. The ratings are in for your convention. It's not pretty.
Biden had better ratings than the president last night.
Joe Biden beat you.
All right, folks, having an issue there technical-wise. I want to go ahead and play those from my iPad. The folks at Lincoln, Project Lincoln, they continue to go after Donald Trump with his craziness. You know, he was whining and complaining about how his ratings were larger. Well, fact of the matter is, Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris, they had much larger ratings when it came to their convention, and so what you're looking at here is, again, Trump trying his best to change the narrative. Let's just say it doesn't really work that way. And not only that, but this is also, here's Joe Biden again hitting Donald Trump on this whole issue of America with Trump in charge. Go.
Rioting is not protesting. Looting is not protesting. It's lawlessness, plain and simple. And those who do it should be prosecuted. Fires are burning, and we have a president who fans the flames. He can't stop the violence because for years he's fomented it. But his failure to call on his own supporters to stop acting as an armed militia in this country shows how weak he is. Violence will not bring change. Will only bring destruction. It's wrong in every way.
From the beginning on that one right there.
If I were president, my language would be less divisive. I'd be looking to lower the temperature in this country, not raise it. Donald Trump.
We're going to pull it out, folks. We're going to pull it out. So that's part of the Joe Biden ad. Robert, I want to start with you here. New York Times is reporting that Joe Biden is going to come out with a new ad decrying looting and rioting, a $45 million spend. Are Democrats playing right into the hands of Republicans? Donald Trump apologizes for nothing. Donald Trump does not, say, first of all, let me just do this here. I'm going to play the rest of this ad, then I'm going to come back to you. Go pick it up, y'all.
Change will only bring destruction. It's wrong in every way. If I were president, my language would be less divisive. I'd be looking to lower the temperature in this country, not raise it. Donald Trump is determined to instill fear in America, because Donald Trump adds fuel to every fire. This is not who we are. I believe we'll be guided by the words of Pope John Paul II, words drawn from the scriptures. Be not afraid. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
So, Robert, he's going to come out with a new ad decrying looting and rioting. Does that not play into the hands of Republicans? Because Republicans are always, oh, Joe, you got to decry that. Donald Trump stood in front of the cameras and literally defended the 17-year-old white kid who killed 2 people in Kenosha.
Look, that's the stupidest thing I've heard from a campaign. What they need to do is hire some more black folks to do strategy, not just to send emails or to hold town halls. You need to have some black strategists on staff, on payroll, 6-figure jobs, black consultants who are cutting these media and ad buys. Because let's understand something: the MAGA is not a campaign; it is a culture. Donald Trump is leading a culture. He's leading a brand. The MAGA brand is: I do not apologize. I do not listen to scientific information. I do not care about your feelings. It's about defiance. It's about contrarianism. It's about don't tread on me. And when you say I'm going to apologize for the burning and looting and protesting, you're forgetting the reason for the burning, looting, and protesting, which is George Floyd was killed months ago, and we have had no federal legislation to address police brutality. That throughout this entire summer of demonstration, we have seen nothing on the state level, on the local level. We've seen nothing being done. That's the reason people are marching and protesting and rioting and looting, because nothing is being done. So instead of addressing the symptom, what you need to be doing is putting out and articulating a message on what you will do on day one. Day one, the minute your hand comes off of that Bible, there should be a executive order in place that addresses police brutality. That is what we need to address. The looting and rioting is a symptom of that. And by apologizing for coming out with an ad buy on that, you are wasting your money, because the people you're trying to appeal to, those suburban housewives that you think that Trump is, that he's winning away from you with his law and order Nixonian 1968 messaging, guess what? They're never coming back. So you either get it's just like dating. You date the person who likes you. Quit trying to convince the pretty girl that that you're good enough for her. All she's going to do is settle. Get out there and you get the person who likes you, and you pay attention to them. That's not what they're doing, and that's how you end up losing elections. That should be a layup.
What you look at, but Breonna, what's the deal is he is talking. First of all, he ain't talking to us. He is talking to white voters in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. He's talking to white voters in Minnesota, Ohio. That's who he's talking to. He's talking to those white voters because Donald Trump is targeting those white voters by saying, oh, suburban women are just scared. Look what they're doing. That's what he's doing. But by doing that, does he play right into the Republicans' hands? Because what's the next thing they're going to say he better apologize for? He better criticize. They apologize for nothing.
Yeah. So I think overall Biden's message is on point. And we do see the issues of the bars and the Trumps who just want to dismiss versus discuss. And so, you know, I do believe that the whole Trump is awful, we finally need to get rid of this orange clown is not enough. And the reality is Joe Biden is elected with a Democratic Congress. Within a year, America will have a $15 an hour minimum wage, the most significant expansion of federal aid to childcare since Head Start was founded. The massive investment needed to retrofit our country 100% towards clean energy by 2035. The most significant infrastructure bill in 30 years, and healthcare coverage expanded to literally millions of more people. And so collectively, those things will make tens of millions of lives better, raise millions of workers out of poverty, save hundreds of thousands of people from early deaths, and improve the childhoods of millions of children. Not to mention possibly help save our species from extinction. So that's why we need to vote for Biden, not just because Orange Man is bad, right? And so I do think that's very important to press those points.
Let's go to back to those ads. Go ahead and press play.
Uh-oh, Donald. Bad news. The ratings are in fear convention. It's not pretty.
Biden had better ratings than the president last night.
Joe Biden beat you. By a lot.
The TV president, the reality TV president who sold himself as a showman.
Below Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
And these two?
Is yet to come.
Embarrassing. Democrats beat you in ratings every night. Except one. When your wife was giving a speech. Ouch. That's gotta be awkward at the dinner table. Even Fox said you were low energy.
You didn't seem to have the bite. He was, I think, a little flat.
We know it's different now. You're tired. It's hard to keep your ratings up. You used to get applause. Now, get ready to hear.
You're fired.
The project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Donald Trump is panicking, finding any excuse to show up in military communities. He knows if elections were held today, he'd lose the military vote in a landslide. 60% of active duty officers disapprove of his presidency because Donald Trump disrespects those who serve.
He's not a war hero. He's a war hero. I like people that weren't captured, okay?
Our troops are in more danger today because of Donald Trump's betrayals. He abandoned our Kurdish allies in Syria, playing into Russia's hand. He wouldn't stand up for our troops when Putin put bounties on their heads in Afghanistan. His weakness emboldens the enemy. Now, Russia is directly engaging U.S. troops, slamming into our patrols in Syria, intercepting our bombers, and flying their bombers dangerously close to American airspace. Trump's refusal to defend America's national security is dangerous. His refusal to stand up for our troops is humiliating. His threat to deploy active duty troops against American citizens is unconstitutional. So when it comes to the military vote for the next commander-in-chief, Trump's not leading, he's losing.
Environmental pollution contributed to the deaths of about 9 million people in 2015. That's nearly 15 times as many deaths from war and all forms of violence.
A newly released government report is revealing the dire consequences of climate change.
Human activity is causing climate change in the world, and that is an irrefutable fact.
I'm announcing my plan for clean energy revolution.
Clean energy is a job engine. It helps to create a more resilient economy across the country.
Today is a historic day in the fight to protect our planet. The Paris Agreement. The United States and China joined that agreement together.
The
United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord. So Obama's talking about all of this with the global warming and that, and a lot of it's a hoax. It's a hoax. I mean, it's a money-making industry, okay? It's a hoax.
The Trump administration has withdrawn California's ability to set its own fuel economy standards.
The windmill. And if it doesn't blow, you can forget about television for that night.
President Trump has taken unprecedented action to roll back environmental protections.
He has repealed regulations that protect water, air, and land.
Unravel the protections that will save billions of dollars and thousands of lives. Largest attack on U.S. climate action in history.
The environment's very important to me.
I want to make it absolutely clear. Rioting is not protesting. Looting is not protesting. It's lawlessness, plain and simple. And those who do it should be prosecuted. Fires are burning, and we have a president who fans the flames. He can't stop the violence because for years he's fomented it. But his failure to call on his own supporters to stop acting as an armed militia in this country shows how weak he is. Violence will not bring change. It'll only bring destruction. It's wrong in every way. If I were president, my language would be less divisive. I'd be looking to lower the temperature in this country, not raise it. Donald Trump is determined to instill fear in America because Donald Trump adds fuel to every fire. This is not who we are. I believe we'll be guided by the words of Pope John Paul II, words drawn from the scriptures. Be not afraid. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
That was the Biden ad I was talking about. That Vote Vet ad is kind of important, Scott, because according to the Military Times, Trump has seen a 20-point drop in the military support. More military folks are supporting, more active duty military people are supporting Biden over Trump. Interesting.
Yeah, I like that ad a lot because it was factual, it was hard-hitting, and it showed the visual with him and Putin, who we all know he will never challenge us, even stood down to. Now, that's very embarrassing to conservatives who support the Lincoln Project. There's so much material to fact-check Donald Trump on. He's told over 10,000 lies for the last 4 years or 3.5 years or 3.5 plus years. And so it's a matter of really organizing it more than anything and reminding the people, whether they're suburban women or the elderly in Florida who are suffering from COVID or the suburban educated women, I do think you have to go after those if you're showing that he's losing that support. The majority of white Americans aren't going to support him as a Democratic candidate because the majority of white Americans think the Democrats, when they talk about jobs and they talk about the environment and they talk about criminal justice reform, don't think the Democrats are talking to them anymore. They think they're talking to people of color and women of color. And so that's okay. We're not going to get every white voter, but if you're losing suburban white women who don't feel safe because of Donald Trump, you've got to remind them that this is Trump's America. It's so easy to fact check him because he lies so much. Even if you were to interview him, you just say, well, who are you talking about? What are you talking about? And you can see even the Fox reporters who interview him, who are friendly interviewers, thinks he's gone off the rail. If you look at the Laura Ingraham interview, it was pathetic, if you. So as a result, I'm just saying, I think Biden's got to stay focused on not only his message, but he's got to remind the voters of what a liar Donald Trump is and what destruction and degradation he's brought to the country.
Brianna, earlier you talked about the environment. This is an ad that targets Donald Trump as polluter in chief.
Environmental pollution contributed to the deaths of about 9 million people in 2015. That's nearly 15 times as many deaths from war and all forms of violence.
A newly released government report is revealing the dire consequences of climate change.
Human activity is causing climate change in the world, and that is an irrefutable fact.
I'm announcing my plan for a clean energy revolution.
Clean energy is a job engine. It helps to create a more resilient economy across the country.
Today's a historic day in the fight to protect our planet. The Paris Agreement. The United States and China joined that agreement together.
The United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord. So Obama's talking about all of this with the global warming and that. A lot of it's a hoax. It's a hoax. I mean, it's a money-making industry, okay? It's a hoax.
The Trump administration has withdrawn California's ability to set its own fuel economy standards.
The windmill. And if it doesn't blow, you can forget about television for that night.
President Trump has taken unprecedented action to roll back environmental protections.
He has repealed regulations that protect water, air, and land.
Unravel the protections that will save billions of dollars and thousands of lives. Largest attack on U.S. climate action in history.
The environment's very important to me.
Brianna, will the environment be an issue? Is it an issue? Or are you going to have folks who say, as long as I'm making money, I'm good?
The environment is a huge issue. And we can see that the Republicans have said that global warming hasn't existed. And so I think, really targeting the difference between, what we're going to do and what we're going to change is important. It does affect urban communities. We spoke about that and how we, need to talk more to Black men and so forth, because, if global warming happens and you're, can't pay the bills and so forth, that old person could have a stroke, right? There's so many issues. If it's concrete jungle, it will warm up more. And I don't think there's been that much of a tie of the urban community and the environmental issues, and more of a tie of the environmental issues and how we can help it with jobs, right? The Blue-Green Alliance. And so I do think it's very important. And I do think those ads show how Trump is a liar. And I think it shows his mental fragility. And I think that's very important because we want change. And so within that, you have to assess what's been done in those 4 years. And if all of those are lies, how are you going to trust that we're going to fix the issue, going up, taking us away from the world and fixing the issue instead of bringing us together? And I think that's really one of the strong things that I've seen within this campaign is that, Biden can really focus on, on foreign affairs and rebuilding our standing around the world and serving as a peacemaker in chief to cut compromises with Congress, while Kamala and others can be fully empowered to work the inside game and, rectify the economic mess and address the climate crisis. And so it gets us out of this post-COVID world. And so, we... some may know, coming from Michigan, there's still the water issue in Flint. It's been years and people still have to drink out of bottled water. And so this needs to change immediately. And so it is important to assess the environment and who can be a better person for our environment. And then we have the issues with the schools and the ventilations, and they're being tremendously behind and wanting to put, the kids back into school and not clear the air ducts and PPE. And so there's a lot of issues, and that goes around the environment. I don't think a lot of people understand how it's interconnected in a lot of different places in our lives.
All right, then, Robert, you were talking about Democrats going after Republicans. Don Winslow, who is an author, he's been putting his own ads out. Watch this here. He calls his hashtag open letter to Republicans.
I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue.
Everyone says that no one can talk to you.
And shoot somebody.
Everyone says nothing we show you will matter.
I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
They say video, pictures, audio recordings, none of it matters.
When you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
But like millions of people, I keep thinking something will turn you around. I thought children in cages would do it. I thought Russian bounties on U.S. soldiers would do it.
Those are our soldiers.
I thought 180,000 dead from a virus that could have been stopped would do it.
It is what it is.
I was wrong. So maybe it's not that you don't hear us. Maybe it's just that you don't care. We're libtards, we're fake news, but we live in the same neighborhoods. We walk the same streets and our kids go to the same schools. Let's just deal with some facts. Mexico never paid for that wall. It was a lie. Trump never delivered a medical care plan to replace Obamacare. It was a lie. Trump promised to release his tax returns. That was 4 years ago.
What the hell is in those taxes?
Just another lie. How many times does a person have to lie to you before you stop listening to them? 17 U.S. intelligence agencies said Russia interfered with the 2016 election. That happened. He holds the Bible in his hands while burning every verse in it. Trump tells you that the press are fake news and enemy of the people, so you won't believe anything they say.
You are fake news.
But you know you can go to YouTube and watch a raw video for yourself. Or is YouTube part of the deep state? What happened to the Republican Party? Ronald Reagan must be rolling over in his grave. This is not America, and scaring the hell out of you every day is not leadership. It's just marketing. On November 3rd, you can end the chaos. You can tell your friends and family that you voted for Trump even when you voted for Joe Biden.
Thanks for your service.
No one will ever know. Think about that.
Robert, do you think Republicans? Do you think Republicans are going to abandon their party? Now there are some. There's a Republicans against Trump Twitter feed, but look at the polling data. A ton of them says they don't give a damn. They gonna stand right with him, the Republican Party.
Man, hell no, the Republicans ain't leaving Trump. And let's understand something. These commercials are just weak. They are soft. They are not making any sort of penetration. They are not swinging anybody who is currently a Trump voter or is currently a questioning voter over to the Democratic side. You can talk about, oh, Trump is a liar. Everybody knew he was a liar when you elected him. Oh, he didn't release his tax returns. Didn't do it last time. What you have to understand when I say that MAGA is not a campaign, it is a culture, that these people are bought into the idea of American contrarianism, American exceptionalism, that I do not have to listen to you nerds talking about the environment. Oh, no, the penguins and stuff are going to die. What these people care about is the projection of strength. So when Democrats are running ads saying, well, Trump has lied to you about XYZ, and then Trump comes back and says, Joe Biden is going to move terrorists and MS-13 into your neighborhood to rape your white wife. That is not, you're not counterpunching effectively. You have to match your response with what the original punch was, and this is why he's projecting this image of strength. As long as Democrats continue with this weak, feckless nature of their campaign, you're not going to be able to beat up a bully by trying to out-logic him or trying to fact-check him. Trump is effectively bullying the Democratic presidential race right now, and I don't know if that's going to be enough to get Democrats across the finish line if they're going to continue with these weak responses.
One more Don Winslow ad for you. He talks about the Trump zombies. Scott?
But
Scott, wait. Guys, go to my iPad, please.
Donald Trump has been telling us for weeks now what a Joe Biden America will look like. Let's take an honest look at what Donald Trump's America looks like right now.
But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
I don't know where the you came from. You don't matter. Every nation will rule the world.
What a stupid question that is.
I will be Donald Trump's most loyal advocate.
You wouldn't want me to condemn a group that I know nothing about. I'd have to look.
We own this country. We make the laws. We tell them what and where and when. They don't tell us.
I'll beat that mask off your face. Get him better. Get him out of here. Nasty Mexican duck.
You also had people, very fine people, on both sides.
White supremacy. Trump will win, and we're going to bring it back, brother. You.
Driver of this gray Dodge mows down a group of marchers.
I protest face coverings. I am a healthy American.
And every single one of them
because all of you are practicing.
No, I don't take the responsibility at all.
Trump will win, and we're going to bring it back.
Build that wall. Build that wall. Nobody loves the Bible more than I do.
I believe Trump is elected by God to be the president of the United States.
I am the chosen one. We will make America great again. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
Now that's an ad, Scott.
Now that's an ad. Now we got a fire. Now that's a fire. My goodness, did you notice the theme? The theme music was from Omen 2?
Of course, of course.
Yeah, exactly. And it was all factually accurate. This is Donald Trump's America. It's interesting that ad and the Lincoln ads are much better than the Biden Democrat ads. Have you noticed that?
Oh, we've been saying that. We've been saying that for months. So that don't even.
I know. I mean, who's putting these ads together, Robert? You're right about one thing. They need to. This is a political gangster we're dealing with. That last ad was a gangster ad. But I do think this, Robert. Those ads, you're not going to change that 40%. So that's baked in. He's not going to lose that 40%. We're not trying to get those. But if you're losing independents and the elderly and the Lincoln Republicans that are out there, that's what the Democrats are going after, reminding them of the lies, reminding them of all of this negative material. It's so much. You got to organize it and stuff. It's not like a normal election. And so those independents, those educated women in the suburbs, those elderly voters, those who took a chance on Donald Trump, right, as independents, you can get those. You may not get the majority of them, but you can get those. If you look at the polling, and I've looked at a lot of polling across the board where you're averaging them in and out and stuff, the elderly vote in Florida is really important. He's still losing there. The military vote, as Roland said earlier, he's losing there. These suburban women voters, his message at the convention and after the convention isn't working. There's a new poll out today. I can't remember who it was by, but it was on CNN, that whereby 60% of the Democrats are worried about the economy and worried about crime and racism and stuff, not Republicans. It's the Democrats. And so those persons that he needs to scare and get their vote, at least so far, his messaging isn't working, at least according to the poll.
But Scott, on that same point, if you change the music on that ad, you can't tell the difference if that's a pro-Trump ad or an anti-Trump ad, quite frankly. And what I mean by that is that the way that we see that as being American chaos, as being white supremacists run wild, on the other side, the quote-unquote suburban wife, as Trump refers to them as, they see that as people standing up for their way of life. The new dog whistle they're using is Western civilization. We're protecting Western civilization from the mobs and from the hordes that are out there. And that looks like a pro-Trump ad to me. What I want to see is show me the ad.
But to the 40%,
hold on, Scott.
Ad.
Show me the
ad. But they're just as ignorant as Trump.
Look, you can call them ignorant, but they get a vote just like you get. That ignorant redneck that you're talking about gets the exact same number of votes that you get. And quite frankly, show me the ad of any Joe Biden supporters being that enthusiastic about Joe Biden. Show me the ad of any Joe Biden supporter walking down the street holding a Biden-Harris flag, screaming at other people. You have to have that kind of energy, and what the Democrats are not doing, they're depending on Trump to energize their base. There's nothing that Biden is putting out to energize people in his base the same way that Trump has his people out there.
Oh, but Trump can't grow. I agree with you. You need that Democratic energy. We've got to show that.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Here's the deal. Trump can grow. White people can do what they did. Listen, Scott, listen. White people can do what they did in 2016. 53. They broke late. 53%. Okay, here's the deal. No, I'm not done. I don't use phrase like "not gonna happen." You know why? Because his ass is in the White House.
Look, Roland. Yesterday I was at the.
I was with you that night.
I don't. So you will never hear me say "can happen" because It did happen. And what I'm saying is this here.
It ain't gonna happen.
It's 60. No, I'm telling you. I keep telling everybody. No. I keep telling everybody. Ignore polls. Ignore. No. Ignore.
Are humanly decent who believe in America, and I'm gonna tell you, they're gonna come out in droves and eliminate this mistake that they made.
Scott,
I gotta believe that, Roland. Because if I don't believe that, if you don't believe that, right? Then we got to figure out what's next.
It's not a question of
about what you're saying.
No. Listen, Scott. It's not a question of what I believe. It's what you do. And what I am saying is this here. This is what I'm saying, Brianna, Robert, Scott. I say, and I tweeted earlier. Matter of fact, let me tell you how much I tweet this. It's literally already pre-written in the notes section in my iPhone. I'm gonna go ahead and show you. Y'all see it, Henry? Let's see if it shows up. Give me a second. Right here. I leave this here so I can repost this sucker at any time. Ignore all presidential polls. Mobilize, organize, register, request mail-in ballot early. Vote on November 3rd. Go to vote.org to check your registration and get registered. Hashtag fire Trump in November. Hashtag fire GOP in November. What we cannot do 61 days out, and Brianna, you will get the last word on this. We cannot do this. We cannot say it's not going to happen. We cannot say, oh, they decent and they loving and they smart and they love America. We cannot say, oh, it's locked in. No. We have to operate as if Joe Biden is down 10 points and you got to hit every message, every point, counter every lie. Brianna, go ahead.
And we are going to do that. That's all I'm
Scott,
saying.
Brianna, go ahead. Brianna, go ahead.
You just always.
No, because you keep interrupting. Brianna, go. Brianna, you keep muting your...
Go.
Stop, Brianna, you keep muting your button. I don't know why. Unmute your button.
There you go. Sorry.
Hey.
Okay, Scott, stop talking.
You know?
Scott, stop talking. Brianna, Scott, mute your button. Brianna, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that energy is very, very important. So I agree with you. Only poll that matters is the poll on election day. We've seen time and time again that these polls get it wrong. And so we need to really, put our blinders on and focus. So I do agree with that. I do think that there needs to be some sort of energy. We talked in the beginning about black men and how it really, came out in droves for Obama, but also young people. We need to make sure that young people do not sit out. And that's the energy that the campaign needs to force people to want to go vote, to force people to understand that this change is needed, right? And so having more social media presence with young people, engaging them is very important because these ads really don't reach young people.
No, go ahead. Well, actually...
you said got it, so I was like, oh, wait. He's going to come out like Scott.
No. Here's the deal. Ads do reach young people, but the point is this here. What I'm saying is we're living in a different world, a total digital world. You're not having events. You're not having concerts. You're not having all the typical political events. You're not having massive rallies. And so it's gonna be each one teach one, each one reach one. I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. That's the only way. I got to go to break. We come back. We're going to talk with the father of Jacob Blake and attorney Ben Crump right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Back in a moment. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. As our community comes together to support the fight against racial injustice, I want to take a second to talk about one thing we can do to ensure our voices are heard. Not tomorrow, but now. Have your voices heard in terms of what kind of future we want by taking the 2020 census today at 2020census.gov? Now, folks, let me help you out. The census is a count of everyone living in the country. It happens once every 10 years. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. The thing that's important is that the census informs funding, billions of dollars, how they are spent in our communities every single year. I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston, Texas, and we wanted new parks and roads and a senior citizen center. Well, the census helps inform all of that and where funding goes. It also determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. Young black men and young children of color are historically undercounted, which means a potential loss of funding for services that helps our community. Folks, we have the power to change that. We have the power to help determine where hundreds of billions in federal funding go each year for the next 10 years. Funding that can impact our community, our neighborhoods, and our families and friends. Folks, responses are 100% confidential and can't be shared with your landlord, law enforcement, or any government agency. So please take the 2020 census today. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov.
All right, so a lot of y'all are always asking me about some of the pocket squares that I wear. Now, Robbie don't have one on. Now, I don't particularly like the white pocket squares. I don't like even the silk ones. And so I was reading GQ magazine a number of years ago, and I saw this guy who had this pocket square here, and it looks like a flower. This is called a shibori pocket square. This is how the Japanese manipulate the fabric to create this sort of flower effect. So I'm going to take it out and then place it in my hand so you see what it looks like. And I said, man, this is pretty cool. And so I tracked down, it took me a year to find a company that did it. And so they make these about 47 different colors. And so I love them because, again, as men, we don't have many accessories to wear, so we don't have many options. And so this is really a pretty cool pocket square. Now, what I love about this here is you saw when it's in the pocket, you know, it gives you that flower effect like that. But if I wanted to also, unlike other, because if I flip it and turn it over, it actually gives me a different type of texture. And so therefore it gives me a different look. So there you go. So if you actually want to get one of these shibori pocket squares, we have them in 47 different colors. All you got to do is go to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So it's RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. All you got to do is go to my website and you can actually get this. Now, for those of you who are members of our Bring the Funk fan club, there's a discount for you to get our pocket squares. That's why you also got to be a part of our Bring the Funk fan club. And so that's what we want you to do. And so it's pretty cool. So if you want to jazz your look up, you can do that. In addition, y'all see me with some of the feather pocket squares. My sister, who's a designer, she actually makes these. They're all custom made. So when you also go to the website, you can also order one of the customized feather pocket squares right there at RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So please do so. And of course, it goes to support the show. And again, if you're a Bring the Funk fan club member, you get a discount. This is why you should join the fan club.
Vice President Joe Biden and his wife Jill Biden will be traveling to Kenosha, Wisconsin tomorrow to conduct a series of discussions with community organizers. They'll also meet with the family of Jacob Blake, the brother who was shot 7 times in the back by Kenosha, Wisconsin police. Joining us right now is his father, Jacob Blake Sr. Jacob, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Thank you, Roland. I appreciate the invitation.
First off, sir, Donald Trump came to Kenosha, spent more time talking about law enforcement. The White House apparently said they reached out to your family pastor. Y'all said, we don't have a pastor. Now you have the Bidens coming tomorrow. Do you believe that the conversation should really be one that's focused on meeting with community and not law enforcement?
I missed that whole last thing there, brother. I'm sorry.
No,
the phone keeps ringing off the meat rack. I didn't.
Yeah, what I said is, if Trump came there, did not meet with the community or did not meet with the family, and then of course you have Biden coming. Shouldn't the focus be meeting with the community and the family, because the shooting of your son is what sparked this, as opposed to meeting with law enforcement and saying, oh, I'm going to pat you on the back?
Well, I don't want to get poo, but in my humble opinion, when you relate things that you relate, you call my son a putt. How would that make any father feel if you connect your child to a putt?
Mm-hmm. You previously had a conversation with Biden and Senator Kamala Harris, and you described it as talking to. I can't remember the exact words, but you said it was a familial conversation.
It was as though I was one of my uncles, man. I know that sounds crazy, Roland, but for 58 minutes, he stayed on the phone with us, and he didn't rush the conversation. He talked about my son. He talked about changing policies. He talked about my family. It was like he didn't have to be told what to say. It was like he was an old school rapper, man, coming off the top of his head, man.
You said policy. The Wisconsin legislature, the governor wanted them to meet to pass some police reform bills. 30 seconds, they opened. 30 seconds later, they closed it.
Again, Roland, my comments are not going to be political because all I care about is my son.
Mm-hmm.
At this particular time, now when my son gets out of the woods and I'll make political statements and I'll make sure I call the 06 and tell him.
Indeed. How is he doing? How is he doing physically?
He's doing better, brother. He's doing better. And I appreciate you asking because some kind of way his health is being lost in a circle. They're not, it's like they don't even register what they've done to mine.
Earlier, he was handcuffed. Have they removed those handcuffs?
He was shackled, bed. Now, the boy is paralyzed the waist down, but he was shackled to the bed by his right leg. I've never been so pissed off in my life, brother. I've never, only words I can use because I was peeved to just look at him there and these armed guards. He can't get up, Roland. He can't get up.
I want to bring in Ben Crump, a family attorney. Ben Crump, glad to have you back on the show. This is obviously a volatile situation. You have Trump yesterday meeting with business owners. Now we know, Ben, that one of the business owners was faking it. He was a former owner. A actual store owner who owned the building did not want to meet with Donald Trump. So the previous owner, that's fraud. And I told people, I said, I don't trust that those are the people standing with Trump are actually store owners.
I'm not surprised, Roland Martin, and it's an honor to be on with you again. Mr. Blake is a man who is a big admirer of yours because you always tell it as it is, Roland, and you're telling it as it is now. This president will do whatever it takes to try to make himself look good, even at the expense of a young man who has 7 bullets in his body that burst his spinal cord, another bullet shattered his vertebrae, another bullet went into his intestines. He's lost most of his intestines. Another bullet went into his colon. He's lost his colon. Another bullet went into his arm. Another bullet went into 2 bullets into his stomach. He's lost all function and control of his bowels. He's lost all function and control of his sexual organs. And for the rest of his life, he's going to have to explain to his 3 little boys why the police shot him 7 times in the back.
Jacob, this is obviously, it's difficult, it's traumatic for you. I talked to Kendall West, the African American Club. He said black folks there have been focused, have been mobilized and organized. But he says that the people who have been causing the problems late at night are white provocateurs. What would you tell those people who say they're out there fighting for Jacob Blake, but they are engaged, they're doing stuff, they're spray painting, they're doing whatever, what would you tell them who say that they're fighting for your son?
You can't be fighting for my son if you're doing any violence. If you're tearing up or destroying, you can't be doing it for my son, because no blessings come from that. No blessings at all. I call for peace here in Kenosha. And I make no mistake, I call for peace, but not forgive that officer for shooting my son 7 times in his back. I did not forgive the system that is set up for them and the system that is set up for us. I don't forgive anybody for anything. Now, I may believe in an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I believe in unnecessary violence.
Ben Crump, I'm going to go to you. The vice president is coming there with his wife. What will you say to him? But more importantly, what must he do in speaking to this nation as it relates to this case as well as others?
Roland, he has to speak to this COVID-19 pandemic that African Americans are dealing with in America. See, the rest of America just has to deal with COVID-19 pandemic. We got to deal with the racism and discrimination that comes along with the COVID-19 pandemic. And he has to speak about reform and legislation to prevent these extrajudicial killings of black people in America. Seems like every other week, Roland, we're dealing with one in Los Angeles now. I mean, there's a hashtag happening quicker than we can keep up. So when he's talking to Jacob Blake Sr. and his family about justice for Jacob, encompassing in that should be justice for George Floyd, for Breonna Taylor, for Ahmaud Arbery, for Dijon Kinsey, for all of these people who have been killed unnecessarily and unjustified, because we dispute what Attorney General Barr says when he says there's no systematic racism in policing in America. It is evidence after evidence, body after body.
And that's the last question I have for you, Jacob Blake Sr. To hear the Attorney General of the United States in an interview today dismiss, this is not a major deal out here. He said there were 10 cases last year of unarmed black men being shot by cops. There's no systemic racism. Your response to that?
Once again, I have to refer you back to my answer to that question, because if I comment, then I'm becoming a political pawn. So I'm not going to comment on anything that any politician does or says.
Well, I ask you this then. For the last question. There are people around the country who are paying attention to the story. What do you want them to be doing, whether they're black, whether they're white, Latino, Asian? I mean, it doesn't matter. What do you want people who are not outside of Kenosha, Wisconsin, to be doing when it comes to what took place with your son and other shootings?
I want people to support change. I want them to support a rebuke of these two systems of justice. There's a system set up for white people, and there's a system set up for brown people. And our system set up for the brown people is not working out too well. I want them to fight for justice for everyone, for humanity. Justice for humanity is more important than justice for a person. It's justice for everyone, for Breonna Taylor, for George Floyd. We can go on and on. We can go half crazy with the people that need justice, man. And until it affects you as a person, you don't understand how twisted this system is.
Got it.
A system that allows a man to put 7 bullets in a man's back and still keep his job.
Got it. Jacob Blake Sr., Ben Crump. Gentlemen, I certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
Thank you very much. Keep doing what you're doing, brother.
I will do, sir. Thank you very much. Final comment with my panel here. Folks, I just sent you, Camila, I just sent you, get Lamont Rucker on the phone. I just sent you a text message. He has a very small window. He's shooting a movie. We're going to talk about Chadwick Boseman, his friend of 20 years. So if y'all could get that done right now. What you just heard there, Breonna, obviously a father who is still dealing with pain. But he made perfectly clear, if you're out there acting a fool, you're not doing it on behalf of my son. I know there are some people who say, well, we shouldn't be focused on that. But the reality is if that gets in the way of the central message of black people being shot, that's a problem.
I totally agree. And we've talked about it previously, Roland, about, how we should care about people's lives over, buildings and so forth. However, for the most part, I think a lot of those actually aren't coming from us. And I think it is people who are trying to distract from the message and because they don't want to discuss the issue. And honestly, there's been 198 judges appointed, but 0 of color. That's the bias. It's a green light for this violence, and we need to change it. Very, very happy that on that South Carolina stage, Biden promised for a black woman to be a Supreme Court justice. We need change. We need more appointments because they've been steadily playing chess as we've been playing checkers. And what they care about more than anything is those judges. And so we need to get really equipped legally in what we want and get our people ready into these positions. Because, they compromise and they change on this or that. But one thing, they might hate Trump. But what he did was give them their judges.
Yep.
And so things like Roe v. Wade, is now under attack. And that's because they've been trying to set up the people to change the laws while we're just saying, okay, well, we'll have this elected official who lies to us and everything else. We need to do it through judges.
And the reality is Democrats don't spend lots of time on judges, Roberts, and they should.
Absolutely.
Robert, you're muted.
Boy, if I did that.
Yeah, if you look at what happened during the apartheid regime in South Africa, the way that that they stayed in power was through the judiciary system by entrenching the legal system in a way that's biased towards the former majority. And the reason that people are rioting and looting, as we said, is because there's been nothing done on the legal or from the legislative aspect. There is no difference in policy today than the day that Mr. Blake was shot. There are no officials who have resigned. There's no law on the books that's changed. So instead of addressing or paying attention to those riots, that's looting, pay attention to what the underlying cause is. All of us need to understand that change can be affected on the local level. We like to talk a lot about Trump and about what's going on the federal level, but those state and local officials are the ones who can make immediate changes, and we have to keep the fire to them in the state legislatures and on the local level where we can change those city council people, those aldermen, the mayors, the police chiefs. That's where we can make change.
Folks, we've been trying to connect with our good friend Lamont Rucker for the last couple of days regarding the passing of his dear friend Chadwick Boseman. He's been shooting a movie. We are catching him right now in the middle of, right before he's going back to shoot. Lamont, glad to have you on the show. Chadwick was your man for 20 years. Lamont, are you there? All right, looks like his video froze. Lamont, are you there?
I'm here.
There we go. Just go ahead. We'll just roll with your audio. Don't worry about the video. Right. Just share your thoughts about your good friend of 20 years, Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, man. Just a dynamite brother. I mean, I think you already heard from a couple people just talking about how completely heartbroken we really are, man. There's so many thoughts to share, and when there's a friendship of that long, and when you've known somebody from when we were all kind of in the trenches, thugging it out, broke actors in New York, just paying our dues, putting our work in. And, you're always happy for your peers, man, who can finally start making their dreams come true. And for him to have the meteoric rise that he had, I mean, there really is nobody that was more deserving. Been rooting for this brother ever since I laid eyes on him, man. We've been trained by a lot of the same people. So even just spiritually, philosophically, ethically, artistically, we've got a lot of things in common, So, we're brethren in many different ways, you know what I'm saying? So, it tears you up to know that selfishly we want him to still be with us because we know the genius that was still yet to be unleashed, you know what I'm saying? We would have all been blessed by and benefited from, but also it just pains you because, of the pain that he was in and the fact that that powerlessness really, really hurts, that you really couldn't save him and even support him. And you just want to be able to love your brothers through it, man. And, so it's tough to keep together sometimes when, you got to really accept the fact that you're never going to see him again in the same way.
We're playing a video right now when he went back to Howard University. Guys, pull the audio up. This is in 2017, his first visit back to Howard since he had graduated. And, man, the students just went crazy when he walked out. And he just ate it up. He was just, he was feeling it and was just blown away by their reaction.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, what greater pride than for one of your own, right, to come back, especially after, doing the work that he did that was so impactful. I mean, when so many other people finally knew that this guy was even here, he just took this thing by storm, man. He just grabbed this industry by the throat and did it with such beauty and class and grace, man. I mean, he really is just the epitome of what I love about us, man, what I love about black people, what I love about black men, what I love about myself, what I love about you, what I love about my father, you know what I'm saying? What I love about, just how powerful and beautiful and magnificent we are, man. He really did his duty to serve that work, to serve that legacy, and to represent his alma mater, his hometown, and, just the essence of what black excellence is really about, man. I couldn't be prouder to call him my brother, man. I miss him dearly.
He walked with a certain swagger. One of the things that we were talking about, and here's the deal. Chadwick Boseman was not a heartthrob. What I mean by that is when people talk about, oh my God, how they view actors. I mean, and he wasn't. And he was, and his deal is, but he operated in a different way in terms of how he presented himself. And it took him longer than some other people. But when he hit, he hit. And we don't remember him as, Chadwick Boseman, the heartthrob. We remember him really for just these nuanced roles, these historical figures, this energy that he brought to those characters. These real life characters, and obviously the Black Panther fictional, but that's what also we remember him for that.
Yeah, I mean, again, that just speaks to the quality of his training, the power and beauty of his spirit. He didn't have to rely on, he's a handsome brother, but he didn't have to rely on that. That wasn't his point of entry, as many compliments as I might, get about my physical attributes or whatever. My desire and my hard work has always been about doing strong quality work. It's about the quality, not the quantity, not the aesthetics, none of that mess, man. So it's really about the stuff that really matters. And that's what he focused on. And that's what our work is about. That's what we all believe in. So I'm glad that his legacy is standing on his brilliance and his inner beauty, not just the outer beauty.
He had a great smile, but one thing also that was amazing is that he was not somebody who was always serious. 2012, I interviewed him and Nikki Bahari for 42 at the Essence Alabama Power Party during Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, ALC. I was going through all of my video archives, and I remember that we were dancing next to each other, but I did not realize that one of our camera folks was there with us. And I'm going through my videos, and I come across this video here of us on the dance floor, him, Nikki Bahari, and just kicking it. And that's the thing. I mean, what people don't realize, they only see that particular character, but the reality is, Chadwick loved to have fun and didn't mind just letting it down and enjoying himself.
Yeah, beautiful spirit, man. Yeah, man, I can see his smile right now. Yeah, thanks for having me with you, man. Love you, brother.
Lamont Rucker, I appreciate it, Lamont. I know we're working on the movie there. Man, keep it up. Love you dearly. We'll talk to you soon.
My man.
Indeed. So we appreciate that, Lamont Rucker sharing it with us. Let me thank our panel, Scott Bolden, Robert, as well as Brianna. Thank you so very much for joining us for today's show, folks. We're going to end the show this way. In a second, I'm going to play that interview with Nikki Bahari and Chadwick Boseman for the movie 42. Tomorrow, I'll have for you the interview that I did with him for the movie Get On Up, where he played James Brown. And so, guys, get that video set up. If you want to join our Bring the Funk fan club, your dollars make it possible for us to do this show, for us to be able to present the kind of content that you're not going to find anywhere else. If you want to join our Bring the Funk fan club, you can give via Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. You can also mail it in. That's important because, again, we are about you, representing our people and our interests in everything that we do. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered, PayPal.me/R Martin Unfiltered. You have Venmo.com/RM Unfiltered. You can send a money order to New Vision Media, NU Vision Media, Inc., 1625 K Street Northwest, Suite 400, Washington, D.C., 2006. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans to be members of our fan club. We're over 11,000 right now, so we want you to become the latest one. Tomorrow, I'll read some of the people who have sent us checks, and so please, we want you to do that. Also, go to vote.org to remember, check your registration and get ready. And, of course, fill that census out, census2020.gov. We'll end the show. Again, this is my interview 8 years ago with a very young Chadwick Boseman and Nikki Bahari promoting the movie 42, where he played Jackie Robinson. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right, well, first off, you are playing iconic figures. This is not a normal movie when you talk about playing Mr. and Mrs. Jackie Robinson. So talk about that. What does it mean for you to be able to step into these roles?
I think for me, stepping into these roles sort of allows you to see the role model within yourself. You know, like the people that we're playing are synonymous with or parallel to like Barack and Michelle. And when you actually envision yourself having that same sense of grace and dignity and fortitude, you start to discover things within yourself. I think that that's why it's an important project for young people to see, you know?
I mean, for me, you know, I think Jackie Robinson taught us how to be successful, taught us how to show respect, show us how to be men, show us how to fight.
How to be black and beautiful.
How to be black and beautiful, stylish. And so just getting the opportunity, I think that's one of the great things about being an actor that I love. You know, as an actor, maybe you didn't study to be a doctor, but you can be a doctor in a film or on TV, and maybe you didn't play baseball, but I get to go to spring training for 3 or 4 months and learn from pros how to play baseball. And so just getting that opportunity to live that and be that and embody it and allow that to inform my own life, I mean, that's the reason why you do the job.
Clearly, we are living in an age where you have the first, in terms of the first black president, breaking down these type of barriers. You're portraying a couple who had to deal with being the first. What about having to go back into history being able to tell this generation that you might have thought it was difficult for President Obama to deal with being the first. That ain't nothing compared to what Jackie Robinson and Rachel Robinson had to deal with.
I think that the situation, I think that what we're doing is not making comparisons so much as saying and bearing witness to the fact that nothing is insurmountable. And like anything that you're facing, you can actually overcome with support and diligence and, you know, a sense of yourself. I think that's what we're saying ultimately.
Well, it's definitely topical. You know, Jackie Robinson is topical because of Obama. It's the perfect time to do it. You know, it's the perfect time to do it during a campaign season. Perfect time to do it while, you know, things are not as easy for him as a candidate as they are for other people. And so I think, you know, although playing president, being the president and having to have that responsibility, seeing how the little things were such a big deal. You know, going to, you know, a lunch counter, going into a Jim Crow bathroom or a water fountain, and even just playing baseball, something that seems small, like how that is such a big deal, lets you know how far we've come. I mean, that's what it means to me.
Well, I'll tell you, I've done some stuff for the Jackie Robinson Foundation, speaking to their scholars. I got a chance to do some stuff for Rachel Robinson, and so we certainly look forward to 42. And we also tell everybody, just like we supported Red Tails, just like we supported Jumping the Broom, on my show, even though it's a political show, we spend lots of time making sure our audience understands one of the reasons why we have to support films that tell our stories, because if we don't, bottom line is we know what's going to happen when that next project comes around and somebody says, we remember the last movie. And so we look forward to it, and we'll do all we can to push it as well. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.